What's up YouTube, Capital G here, letting you guys know what the heck happened at YCS San Diego. I spent a good portion of my weekend watching the live stream coverage and reading up on it so that you guys don't have to. So, YCS San Diego was not the largest event in recent memory, nowhere near as large as YCS London or even YCS Dallas, but it still clocked in at 954 people, which let's just go ahead and round that up to 1,000. I still think 1,000 is definitely a legitimate event. I mean, it's much larger than almost any regional that you're going to have in the United States outside of maybe California, where LA regionals are just ridiculous. Some of that could be because of the location. I know that San Diego is like right at the bottom tip of the state of California, but that also meant that there were probably going to be a lot of people from Mexico. In fact, I believe that the guy that got second place, actually, they said that he was from Mexico, and the finals was pretty interesting. For starters, congratulations to Faisal Khan, not only winning this event with Spiral, but to get off the mat, man. The guy obviously lost to his brother at YCS Dallas in the finals, but you want to talk about having some conviction, like going right up to the next YCS on American soil and winning the damn thing. Like, that is impressive to go back-to-back in the finals, but not only to win it. And I don't know if you guys watched it, but he won in just commanding fashion. And I watched three of Faisal's I watched three of his feature matches. I think top 32. He had another one, I believe, in top 4, and then ultimately in the finals. Yeah, the top 4 match was against ABC, which I'll talk about in a little bit. The kid is impressive. I mean, I call him a kid even though he's 19 years old. You wouldn't know it by looking at him because it looks like the second coming of Yugi. He's so young, but I really didn't see him make any highly questionable plays where I'm just like, what is he doing? But I cannot say the same for his opponent, and man, people were just going off on the guy. I hope I don't mispronounce his name. I believe it's Bryn Osiris. He was playing Trickstars. He made it into the finals. I was personally rooting for him because obviously I have an affinity for Trickstars. I really enjoy the archetype, but he made so many questionable plays, and I'm not even like, you know, a high caliber expert when it comes to competitive meta play, but I think most people know when you're playing against Spirals, if there's a good chance that your opponent is still going to have a combo extending card like Big Red or Double Summon or Soul Charge, etc., etc., cards that can let them still continue to pop off. I think the general feeling is that you save your biggest hand traps. You save the cards that can shut down a play, your Ghost Ogre and maybe your Ash Blossom, since, you know, you're never really going to have to Ash Blossom Pot of Desires because Spirals don't run that. I think that is known that you save those power cards for the double helix, and he refused to kind of do that, and I really believe it cost him the finals. I mean, he got 2-0 obliterated, but in game 1 he had his Ghost Ogre, and he Ghost Ogred a copy of Drone, which I don't know, that didn't make any sense. It's not like it was going to negate Faisal's Drone's effect, so he still got to stack his opponent's deck. He ended up having you know, a combo extender. He goes into double helix, he proceeds to pop off, and the Trickstar guy who goes second is just sitting there kind of, you know, twiddling his thumbs as he inevitably loses. And then he did the same exact thing in game 2 where he had a Cosmic Cyclone set and he had a Ghost Ogre, and Faisal plays his Resort and he uses Ghost Ogre on it instead of using the Cosmic Cyclone. Obviously, Cosmic Cyclone cannot shut down nearly as many combo extending pieces as the Ghost Ogre can, and Faisal ends up, you know, basically having another extender. He doesn't set any more back row for the rest of the turn. He goes into double helix, and ultimately the Trickstar player loses his Cosmic Cyclone to a Super Agent anyway. So it's like, not only did you stop Faisal's combo, but you ended up losing your Cyclone for free. If you would have done it in reverse, I don't know. I feel like the finals could have easily went differently, and I think that is honestly one of the big takeaways when it comes to just this event as a whole. The numbers kind of don't tell the entire story. If you look at the top 32 breakdown, and you guys will probably be seeing a graph on the screen right about now, over 50% of the breakdown was Spiral, 17 decks in Spiral. So obviously our most recent ban list did its job. I mean, it made Spirals, and obviously they're still, you know, the best deck in the meta, but it brought them to a level where at least we can compete with them. They're not taking 29 spots of the top, you know, the top cut anymore. But I really think if you look at the rest of the top, if you look at the rest of the top 32, you see the 6 Pendulum Magicians in there, and I really feel like this was the coming out party for the Trickstar deck. A lot of people say The deck doesn't have a win condition. It's not that good. Trickstar made it to the finals, guys, and if it wasn't for some questionable resource management, maybe he might have actually won this thing. So I said before, I think that Trickstars is like the only deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! That you really don't have good side deck answers to, and I think the future is very bright. ABC also snuck in there and just said, I guess it was like a colossal FU to Cap. I've been saying for the past few weeks now, I don't believe ABC is that good of a deck, but I think that the guy played his absolute ass off. The ABC build was super tech. He had skill drain in his main deck and a whole bunch of other crazy things, and he played against like Pendulum Magicians and Spirals, and he was just like waxing them. I was actually super impressed. Now there are a couple of cards that I see that are just making so much of impacts. If I had to look at some really big tech cards throughout the tournament, number one would be Soul Charge. We've started to see that obviously when Spirals became tier 0. We saw a lot of Spiral players playing Soul Charge. It's not only a good card if you get hit with Solemn Warning or Solemn Strike, as those cards are starting to be very meta again. But in a deck like Spiral, if you are like if you're hit with like Ghost Ogre just bringing a monster back, we even saw Trickstars, like both players in the finals, Spirals and Trickstars, were both playing Soul Charge, which I thought was actually kind of crazy. And I guess it does give Trickstars the ability to go into Holly Angel a lot more, knowing that not only do you have Soul Charge to back you up, but then you also have Reincarnation that can get you your monsters back as well. Cyframe Gamma, this was a card that a ton of people were playing. In fact, I was more impressed by Cyframe Gamma's impact than Droll and Lockbird. I'm starting to really not feel Droll and Lockbird so much. I've never been that high on the card. I know that that might sound you know, kind of weird because Spiral are still the best deck, but if you really watch these Spiral matches, a lot of these matches were just grinded down. They were simplified game states by turn 3, and a lot of the hand traps, especially ones like Droll and Lockbird, that don't take out a card from your opponent, I just don't think that they have that much value in them. I mean, yes, you'll still see Spiral players pop off, but, you know, Cyframe Gamma not only stops the card, but it kills a card, and then if it happens on your turn in response to like an Ash Blossom or something like that, or if your opponent tries to Ghost Ogre you when you activate your field spell to Surge, you can obviously get an Omega for free, and damn, I really believe that the ceiling of Cyframe Gamma is probably the second highest in the game right now. Obviously, Max C can get you like 15 cards, so Max C is going to have the highest ceiling in the game, but Cyframe Gamma was looking especially good, and I think that people have to start looking at the play style of Spiral. If you want to take this deck down, Spiral Tough, to me, was another card that really showed up big in this event. People were searching for it a lot, and you would see Faisal in these mirror matches, or just, I guess, any of his matches, where he would just have a Tough on the field, and it would just be a 19 beat stick, and you maybe sit behind a utility wire and a hand trap, and you're putting pressure on your opponent, not only with a 1900 monster, which is actually kind of, it's kind of tough to deal with, guys. Most monsters have to go, or most decks have to kind of go into the extra deck to get over a 1900, but every single turn, the possibility of blowing up a monster, blowing up like an Ancient Fairy Dragon from ABC, or blowing up a really big monster that your opponent worked really hard on the field, like Spiral Tough was putting in a lot of work, and I thought that Spiral players would be throwing that card in just because they lost so many cards, but I didn't think that it would actually be doing so much work. I thought that it was just another card that would just kind of count as Super Agent on the field, and it was kind of thrown in there out of just necessity. I did not expect the card to actually shine so much. So this is it's going to be interesting to see where the format goes. I thought that it was a little disappointing that we really kind of just saw a big 3 developed, in my opinion, with the top 32. I still wouldn't consider ABC like the 4th best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! No Paleo in the top 32, no Invoked in the top 32, obviously no Magical Musketeers, no True Dracos, but I still believe that those are very strong decks. The same can be said about Mill, Burning Abyss. So we'll see where this format goes. I want to know if Magical Musketeers can actually do well. I think the fact that Spiral is still by far the best deck of the format doesn't really favor them, because if you've ever played Magical Musketeers, that deck needs to target a lot, and having the resort on the field, or even the last resort, making it so your opponent can't target your monsters, that is really, really bad, because they have to use the Desperado on your field spell, and nobody wants to do that, especially if the field spell has already gotten a spiral player like a +1 or something like that. So whatever you guys thought from the event, or what, excuse me, whatever you guys thought of the event, whatever you guys thought was interesting, maybe it was the banished deck in round 4 that 2-0'd the Lightsworn guy, that was hilarious. Maybe it was the World Chalice player who was, you know, on the bubble, who actually had a chance of making it to top 32. World Chalice is actually starting to creep up. I believe over the weekend there was also a World Chalice player, and I'm not sure if it was Atlanta, but it was a regional, and they were like 7-0. I might have to do a little bit of research on that one. And I guess one last thing, I just have to mention the obligatory evenly match. I was actually thinking about that as I watched the feature matches. Oh my goodness. Every single time this card resolved, whether it was against Pendulum Magicians or whether it was the feature match where it was Paleozoic versus the True Draco deck, it was just wiping entire boards. And there was not a player who actually came back from getting like 4 to 5 cards evenly matched off their field. That card is absolutely absurd. I feel like it should be in almost everybody's side deck, unless you're playing a deck like, I don't know, Pendulum Magicians, or maybe something random like Frames where you won't usually be able to activate it. Maybe even Frames could do it. It's just, I guess, if you don't have the field spell up. But that card is absolutely crazy, and yeah, it's going to be one of the things you always have to think about. And Pendulum players are going to have to start finding ways to actually address that card. I'll probably do a video on that too. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, once again, congratulations to Faisal Khan. Keep your head up, young man, if you happen to see this video. I see a lot of a very great player named Lazaro Bolito. He was an excellent player from the GX and 5Ds era. I see a lot of him and you, and that's saying something, because for my money, Lazaro Bolito is the greatest Yu-Gi-Oh player of all time. Keep staring at the camera every time your opponent misplays with that Ghost Ogre. I saw that, man. I saw that. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on those notifications for daily videos.